Section 4, Part A. In this section, we're going to write a basic work order, add a few jobs to it, look up the parts, the labor, receive them in, and then we're going to post it out to an invoice. So you can start a work order for any one of these three areas. You have contacts, work orders, and prioritization. No matter where you go in here, if you click, you'll notice when you pick a customer here, for example, if I go look up Julie and I select a vehicle, you'll see at the top, I can start a work order. Again, that's the split tab. I can start a regular work order, or I can use a template, which we're going to come back to this at the end so you can see how a template works real quick. Typically, most people are going to start them either from the prioritization screen or the work order screen. So if I go over to my prioritization and I click, see, same thing again. Who am I working on? Who is it? Or what vehicle is it? I can search either way. I click, I open it up. Now, if I just select the customer name and I hit next, what's going to happen is the system is going to remind you did not select the service item. It's going to turn it into a counter sale. Counter sale is a work order with no vehicle or service item whatsoever on it. You don't want to do this because it makes it very hard to look up parts and labor if it has no idea what you're working on. So what you want to do is hit no. Then select the proper vehicle, hit next. Your next screen is going to be, do they have any specific concerns, areas we'd like to inspect, or services? So she might come in with an issue with her brakes. So at that point in time, you would come in here and pick the appropriate section or concern. So I'm opening that up. These little pink exclamations, these are just letting you know these are concerns. It gives you a way to document on the ticket what their concern is. These are inspections, and then these are actual service jobs. So everything is set up in a storybook format. So if they come in with a problem and I say, well, they got a concern, I can click it. I can go over to description and type in what their concern is. You know, maybe they have a grinding noise or something. So I'm telling a story here. That's what I'm doing. Do they have wheel lock on it? Yeah, maybe no. Is it all the time? Last time they were serviced? Whatever the case may be. Then I'm going to hit add. When I hit add, it'll ask me if I want to do any related jobs. Now, whether you're using the inspections in here or whether you're using a digital vehicle inspection such as AutoServe 1, Auto Vitals, or AutoFlow, you can pick your inspection and they will be set up in your system. You'll notice as soon as I start a ticket here, concerns will always be in red. So it's always going to be at the top of the screen. And again, I'm telling a story. Why are they walking in the door? And then here is, what are we going to do to check it out? Now, if they're also here for other things, such as an oil change or whatever, I can go over here and look for the oil change. I can also search for any job in here by code or by a title. So if I type in the word lube, for example, and I hit enter, what the system is going to do is it's going to automatically pull up anything with the word lube somewhere in the title. It will also look in the past. So you'll notice here on 2/11/23, we did a blended oil change. Here was a synthetic oil change. And I can even reuse these jobs if I want. So it always goes back and it looks in the past. It'll go back 3 years. Now we're going to just do one straight from scratch. Now, if your customer is not sure what type of oil, for example, then here's where you're going to be able to use your flyouts. As soon as you start a work order, you'll see a little contact and a little blue vehicle here. So if I click on the vehicle, I can quickly go over to the right side, and this is going to give me my flyouts. This is going to be my vehicle information, details, invoice history, specs. So if I click on the specs, see it's letting me know what type of oils, and you can pick from here. Okay? This will give you all sorts of things, drain plug torque, things like that. Tire fitment guide, Carfax history. So they say, well, yeah, let's go ahead and go with the synthetic. I can click it and I can add it to the work order. Now, again, it's going to ask me if I want to do an inspection. We're going to do one already. So we're going to just skip them and hit OK. Concerns will be in red, inspections in blue. All jobs or services, including diagnostics, would be in green. I'm going to hit next. The next screen will represent any jobs that we've estimated on previous visits, but they've been deferred. In other words, we quoted a job on a previous time they were here and they declined it at that time. So we did put it in the history of the vehicle. So at any time I can pull this up. Now this, we're going to get into a lot more detail when we get to the intermediate part of the training, but this screen will come up automatically if they have any deferred work. If there is no deferred work, the system will automatically skip the screen. I'm going to hit next. The next screen will represent any service intervals. So if I go over here to the drop down and open it up, I can go in and pick what mileage interval I want to look at. So here at 90,000 miles, this is a listing of all items for inspection or replacement. And you'll be able to add this to the work order also if you want. So you'll have a checklist. You'll notice on the right, it has last mileage and current mileage. So at any point in time, as I'm writing the work order, I can always put in the current mileage. So if I had, say 300,000 miles on here or kilometers, I can do that. I hit next. The next screen will represent what we call reminder items. In other words, here are items that we're tracking on this vehicle. What are we tracking? What interval? Last time we have a record of it being serviced, when it's going to be due again. Now I'm going to hit next. Now we're at our finish line. You notice I'm selected as the service advisor because I'm logged in as the service advisor. So it automatically does that. If you're not ready to send it to a technician yet, leave it at none. If you are, you can go ahead and pick your technician at this point in time. So I'm not ready to send it out to a technician yet. I hit finish. Now I'm in the work order. Now you'll notice in these work orders that you see a lot of this broken down. A lot of the wording and stuff will be in black, but you'll also see this little purple color. This purple color is going to let you know that, hey, this needs to be fulfilled. In other words, we need to look it up. Now, the way the system is designed, if I open this line by double clicking, you're going to notice that in a lot of these jobs, you're going to have what we call a definition. So this is telling the system what this line should be. So we know this line should be engine oil. Now, how would it know 520 and the quantity? That is going to come from our spec page. So because it sees the definition engine oil, it actually opens the flyout internally, pulls up what we call capacities here. So here it says, okay, this vehicle holds 5.2 liters. There's your recommended viscosity. What triggers every single bit of this stuff to happen is when the vehicle was entered, we made sure it was cataloged. If it's not cataloged, none of this will work. So I have a brand new work order. Now, if I'm going to leave this open and I want to do some work in here, I might hit save. That will issue it a work order number. Now, if I want to start looking up the oil and the filter, even before I give this over to a tech, I certainly can. I just simply click on the title, see this boxes it in, puts a box in here, and I go straight to my catalog. The advantage of doing this is it will automatically search for both items. Once you look up one, it automatically goes to the next. In other words, I won't have to do this. Click, right click, go to my catalog, and then come back and do the same thing over and over. That's kind of the slow way. So what you want to do is box it in, go to catalog. So the first thing it's going to do is start looking for oil. Now, oil typically comes from inventory. So I'm going to click. I'm going to say, well, let's go look in all of my inventory, and I'm going to hit search. So that's everything that is defined engine oil. And you'll notice in the search criteria right over here on the right, engine oil. So I want to find my 520. Click. What was this? Oh, this is going to be a synthetic. So we want to find our synthetic oil. It will tell you what you have in stock, what you have available to sell. I apply. Now, as soon as I apply that, it automatically drops to the next line. So if I go over to O'Reilly here, for example, this will tell me what they have in the store, part numbers, manufacturers. And as I go through here, you'll notice too that you see I have some actually in stock. I got 9 of these in stock, and I have 10 of these. So this is going to depend on your production date here. This one happens to be early. I click it. Now, as soon as I hit apply, since I'm in an online catalog, it's going to ask me, do I want to pull it from inventory or do I want to order it? So this particular one, I'm going to pull from inventory. You notice purple goes away. These lines have been fulfilled. Now, if I'm not ready to give it to a technician yet, still, I can save and I can say, well, hey, the vehicle's here. We just have not assigned it out yet. That puts it in the vehicle on site area. If I have a technician that I want to give this to, let's say we're going to give it to Sam Socket. Then when I go to save it, he should be out there getting the vehicle ready to inspect it. And that sends it over to him. And you'll notice here it is. So once I do this, I can open it up by double clicking at any time. So typically your technician's going to go out and do the inspection. Now, if they're using digital vehicle inspection, this will automatically fill in once it's completed. You can complete this yourself. If you're not using the digital vehicle inspection, you can come in and check everything. You say, well, let's go set it to okay. They might come back and say, well, look, it's going to need brake pads and rotors are worn out. I can just simply double click. I can recommend them. I can put in, what the readings are, why we're recommending, and then I just simply start adding service packages. The system does have what we call quick picks connected to these lines. So if I want to do pads and rotors in the front, I add and close. And all I'm doing is I'm putting those jobs onto the work order to be estimated out. Might want to also do a brake fluid exchange at the same time. And we're going to recommend rotors front only. So we're just going to just go in, make a little note here, There we go. Now when I go back to my work order, you'll notice I have the jobs on here. So let's look at some just basic functions that you can do here. You'll notice there are tabs at the bottom left area. You have quite a bit of information on the right side and across the top of the screen. Now we're not going to get in heavy detail with all of these things. Let's just kind of look at some basic stuff. So when I'm in a work order, that's the work order tab. We also have what we call deferred work. So what is deferred work? Deferred work is work that we quote, but a customer declines. So if I say, well, I quoted him an oil change or her an oil change, and they decline it, I can right click and move it to deferred. So that will put it in the history of the vehicle. And you can always put a note in. These are just some default notes that we have, but you can type in any note you want here. And then when I do this, you'll notice it's gone from the work order. And there it is in the deferred service. I can always click, right click, and move it back to a work order. So whenever I box something, if I click on the title, that boxes that whole job in. And I'm going to roll up here, get a little bit better view. So I can right click, I can open up Mitchell Pro Demand or Shopkey if I'm using that. It'll automatically launch it. Move to deferred, I can edit the header or the footer. What is the header? The header is this title and this description. Now you notice there is no footer here. So if I want to throw a footer in, I certainly can. Type in whatever I need. I can add additional labor lines, part lines, sublet lines. I can change this job over from one service advisor to another, or same thing with technician. And I can mark a job as completed. So if I go back to this oil change, for example, it says, well, hey, I'm done with it. Then I can say, well, this job is completed. And that's where you get your little green bar here. And you can delete a package. If I go to any individual line item and right click, properties just opens the line. So here I can open the line, type in if I need to, anything. I can make whatever changes necessary here. Again, I can launch my Pro Demand. I can go look up in a catalog. So catalog tells me I want to go online to any of my online suppliers and look up these parts. I can jump straight to inventory from here. Add lines, change service advisors and technicians. You know, especially with the labor operations or a job, I might have one technician doing these two jobs, but a completely different technician doing these. So all I gotta do is right click, box it in, change it over. So now Johnny Tech is doing this job and Sam is going to be doing these two jobs. Whether I'm here or in deferred work, I can always look up labor and parts just by simply clicking and go to my catalog. Now let's think about this. I actually have two jobs here, the brake job and the fluid exchange. So it's going to start with whatever's first, the job, the brake job, and the labor line. So that's the first line. These are purple because the system is telling you or prompting the system to look it up. So if I want to go look up pads or shoes, there's my labor. And this labor time does come from the Mitchell Labor Guide. Now, some shops will have it automatically bump up labor time. That's what that asterisk represents. See, it's bumping up 10%. This one, you notice when I uncheck that, it goes away. If I come back, I hit the plus sign. See now, I'm going to say, well, I'm doing two of them, and see it's just multiplying the time. That's all it's doing. If you're looking for something in particular, you can even filter whatever list is here. You just type it in. I'm only looking for front. That's all that is. Once I find what I want, I hit apply. Now it's going to start looking for pads. Now here I have two different vendors and my inventory. So if I look in one vendor, don't find what I want, I can simply drop over to another vendor. And you can actually search up to 3 vendors and your inventory with this. When I get to the last one here, I can even open it up and keep going and start looking at all kinds of different vendors here. So if I say, well, I want to look at these pads, anytime you see these part numbers underlined in here, you can typically double click and you can usually get a picture, and sometimes you can get crossover numbers, things like that. Once you decide what you want, you simply click it, click the box, hit apply. Now it's going to take me to the next line. Now we're looking for rotors. And then I click and apply again. Now we need to go get some brake fluid. And again, see the fly out with the capacities told me, hey, this car holds .3. Now, if I go to inventory and hit search, nothing's coming up. So I'm going to change my search here to everything. Let's try it one more time. So there's my .3, there's my .4. Click, apply. See, now I've brought all that information back. Now notice the brake fluid is black. That just simply means the line has been fulfilled. In other words, we pulled it from inventory. So if I double click and open the line, everything is done. See, we searched it and we pulled it direct from inventory. This doing this up here is really the same as me coming here. It's just that I'm doing it as part of a group of items instead of one at a time. Now I can go to inventory here and pull up brake fluid here too. I would just, tell it what I'm looking for and then click and draw it from inventory. These are still purple, and they're purple because, again, it's telling you it's not sourced. In other words, we haven't received it in yet. So really all I'm doing is quoting the job at this point. Now, now what you can do is you can actually go down to the analysis tab. You can look at, what am I selling something for? What is my cost? What is my profits? Gross profit margins all the way down. So now you know what you're looking for and your goals and the margins you're trying to make. The history tab will give you every invoice you ever have on this customer. This is really nice. So since we're trying to sell brakes here, I can always go in and say, well, look, my storybook format is telling me we have worked on the brakes in the past. When I open it up, I can see all the different jobs we did. Oh, looks like we did pads and rotors in the front once before. I click it. So here we did pads and rotors in the front. There's the date we did it, the year, the invoice, the mileage. Now, if I just double click this again, this will open up the actual invoice where we did it. And if I need to go do any research, it makes it very easy. I can just simply double click a line. I can go to my source and I can see who I bought these parts from, when I bought them, what it cost me. I can even print this stuff out for historical data. Very easy with the storybook to find out what you did. Labor hours will be on the ticket over here. In other words, what are you invoicing? What's the technicians are being credited? Which technicians, how much? See, remember we have 2 different technicians working on this. Purchases will be all items we searched online and brought back to the work order. So here underneath O'Reilly, we have a couple of parts that are waiting to be ordered. So here I have my pads, my rotors. Now, if I'm ready to go ahead and order them, I just simply either click on the name or on one of these parts, and I go over here to the right and place the order. Here's everything I looked up. My reference number will always be your work order number. Now you can add anything else you want here or a little message, like, hurry up, when you get the parts quick or something, and then place order. Once the order is placed, it'll send you back a confirmation. We hit OK, and it'll move it down to order confirmed with a date and a timestamp. Now, if I go look at this work order again, now the colors are starting to change. You see, these are no longer the purple color, but the units are purple. It's just letting me know we haven't received it yet. That's all it's doing. This will be the end of part A, and we will continue on with part B.